Hi guys, gonna do one of the seldom seen jobs, which is cleaning out a tank. This skeleton's been macerating for quite a while now, and what I'm gonna do is just empty the contents, give them a swill, and then I'll put them out to dry. And then the next stage after that will be the degreasing. So what I'll do is, once they're dry, look how greasy they are and assess how long they're going to need in acetone. So we'll just set that down there. I'll pick it up and show you, but basically I've got a skeleton in this tub. It's the water in there. It's cold water, so it's been cold water macerated for quite a while. It was partially cleaned when it went in, and the downside of this is it's quite smelly, which obviously you don't get until they invent smell-o-vision. But on television it's not smelly, but in my garage it is smelly. So I'm going to take the lid off. What I've got here is just a plastic tub. So rather than just get in and get all the goo, which I'll show you the surface of that in a minute, I've brought a bucket of warm soapy water in. So in fact I'll just leave it in the bucket. I'll transfer it into the tub after that. So I'll flip the camera and show you the goo. So in here now is, you can see the water's quite brown. If I pick the water up, you can see it's actually quite slimy and goopy. What that is on the surface is the fat that's come out of the bones. So it's the grease and fat that's come out of the bones, and that's gone into the surface of the water. You see how gooey that is? Hence the reason for the swill. So what I'm going to do is swill these in the warm water here. So first I'm just going to transfer the long bones and the spine. So I'll get all these separate bones in here first. Now you'll see there that there's some bags. So when you macerate, if you've got a foot all in one piece, to save messing about sorting the bones later, if you literally just put it in a bag, then you can do it either by leg or by foot, but all the bones in there will be for 1 foot. So it does save a lot of time sorting out later on. It's a good way of doing it. And you see how thick and how runny this goo is. So all I'm going to do is drop these in, once I've got the thicky stuff, drop them in the clean water, and then get rid of the slime, and then lay the bones out on a rack. So I'll flip the camera back now, if I can get this to work, and that's it. So I'll get the last. So even though this has been macerated, you'll see there's still ligament, that's the tail. So there's still ligament holding that together. You could actually dry this out and just do a ligament mount, but what I'll do is separate these. So these bones now, because they've been soaked for so long, they'll pry apart if you just tease them apart, because the ligament's rendered down to some extent. So you can actually take the bones off and make them individual. But for purpose of washing and drying, I'm just going to leave it like that. So one of the scapula, as again you can see, the still bits of ligament attached here. If this had been done in warmer water, that would have come off a lot cleaner, and it would have been just literally rendered down. So here's my atlas bone, and again, if you pop your finger through there, you'll see where the spinal cord was. So, and there's the tissue that's come out from inside it. When I say tissue, I mean meat, not piece of tissue. So I'll gather up the rest of the bones now. You can see how thick this is. It's literally slime. Look how nice and gooey that is. It smells lovely as well. Wish you could smell it. A good way of doing this as well is, once you've got all the bones out, if you think you've got them all out, is run the rest of the water through a strainer. If you run it through a strainer, you're not going to lose any of the really small bones, like the seismoids, although the seismoids should be in the bag. But there's a couple of small bones on the legs, on the rear legs at the back of the femur. There's a small bone that goes near the tibula and fibula, and of course tail bones. Because the tail stayed in one piece on this, it's not too bad. Now you'll notice there that I think I put 3 bags in, so there is a foot in here that's loose, and I'm picking out toes now. So obviously the three feet are bagged up, so what's the rest of the foot bones, that's the other foot. So I don't need to sort that foot, I just need to sort out which are the foot bones, which is quite an easy task. After you've done a few skeletons, you get to recognise the bones. So I'm picking out now a tiny seismoid, and there will be the carpals on the foot that I put in separately will be quite big as well, quite small as well, sorry. So you need to make sure that you've not lost that. So I'm feeling around now, nearly got most of them. There's the sternum. Again, it's still got ligament in between. You can see actually how fat the ligament is in between these. So it's about 3 or 4 millimeters. That's just quite a small animal, so still finding bits of foot bone, a bit more sternum, the heel. Right, so I think I've got everything out of there. So the rest of what you're seeing here now looks like white lumpy bits. It's not bones, it's literally the big lumps of fat that have come out in that soup. So now I can give these a swill. Pull my sleeves up a bit. Try not to get too smelly, because I'm literally going to do this tonight, and then I'm going to go in the house and watch a bit of TV or build a bit of Lego. It's quite cold tonight, it's a frosty night, so it's not the warmest place to be at the moment. But they've all loosened out really nice, all the bones are separate, so there's not a great deal of ligament in there. I can just feel the 2 tarsals sticking together there. So I'm not going to open these, not yet. I'm just going to pop these to one side. In fact, I'll put them in this clear tub for now. So they've had a swill. So there's the skull. It's quite a nice animal, this one. Very sought after one by a lot of collectors. A lot of collectors would love to own one of these. And just the skull, let alone the skeleton. You can see there's a tooth missing there as well. So that's dropped out. When you macerate, the teeth do come loose on a lot of animals, so you need to check, make sure you find the teeth. So I've got one tooth that's come loose at the side and two at the front. So I know in this goo there are some teeth. By macerating as well, you do usually get a really nice turbinate, so that they save really nice. I'll try and get that up to camera without wetting my tablet, but the nasal bone inside gets saved really nicely. So once these are dry, that's once these are thoroughly dry, it might take 3 or 4 days, or unless I put them on a drying mat, and then you can see what you need to do to degrease. When you're degreasing, especially with bigger animals, not so bad at this size, but if you're going to drill these bones anyway when you build it. So what you can do is where you know you're going to drill, you can drill holes in it so that the grease gets freed easier. So now I'm just going to transfer that big handful. You can see the bones when they're coming out of the water, all the slime's gone now, and that means the smell has gone as well to some extent. These won't be very smelly now. Same thing applies when you're emptying your bucket. Try and make sure you've got all the surprised to see me wearing gloves. I did explain earlier in the video that the only reason I'm wearing gloves is because this stuff really smells, and I'm going in to watch TV later with the family, and if it doesn't matter how many times you wash your hands, once you've had your hands in this for a few minutes, your hands stink for quite a while. So it's literally just to avoid me getting moaned at by the ladies in the house. So there's one of the teeth that I've just found in the bottom there. So that's one of the teeth. I've not checked through the bones there to see if there's another one. And there's the other tooth. So there's one more tooth to find. It might be amongst the bones, to be fair, because I grabbed a big handful. But teeth you don't want to lose. And there's the other tooth. So I knew I had 3 teeth missing, and they're all in the bucket. So now I'm going to strain the thick soupy goo. So I'm going to pour that just through a colander. You can see on the bottom it's fairly small. I think I can pick this up in one hand. It's quite awkward with having the handles on. think what I might do is just grab a support. I can pour with two hands then, it'll be easier. So I'm going to pour this through the strainer. It's quite slow to go through as well, purely because of how thick this is. And there we go, you see, even though I'd felt around in here, there's a rib. So I'll give that a little swill. And then down in the bottom, even more surprises. So 2 bits of sternum, toe, couple of carpals, and what's that last bit there? Is that bone? Yep. That is. That's a really tiny tooth. So if I have a closer look at the skull, there's probably another one missing. And the goo is still actually straining through. So or not as this case, because it's reached water level. So if I lift this up now, I'll strain the rest of that goo through there. And even in the goo, there'll probably be little bones. I'll put it back in there just to dilute the goo a little bit. I can feel gritty bits in the bottom, so be interested to see what these are. There's a seismoid. So these are tiny, tiny, tiny bones. I don't know if you can actually see it if I get hold of it there. So that's a tiny little bone. Another seismoid. The end of a tail, I think, maybe. Quite a fine, thin bone. A tailbone. And some of the gritty bits are just rendered down cartilage. Seismoid. If you can crush it, it's not a bone. So I'll fill this back up again with water, give it another swill out. There's a foot bone, one of the carpals. I'm struggling now with the soap because I use soapy water because I wanted to wash the skeleton. I'm actually not able to see through the suds. So basically at the moment I'm picking carpals out. Another seismoid. So that's that. With peroxide. Ah, yeah, reptile bones are really hard to clean, and especially a frog is quite a soft animal to do. So I'll wash this tub up later. What I've also got to do is, in my other pot here, I've got the claws macerating separately. I'm not sure if I'll be able to separate these fully yet. These have been soaking. These have still got a little bit of fur attached, but I can get that off now. These have had a bit of a soak. There's still a bit of skin and ligament on these, but once it's dried out I should be able to get that off. Removing the claws is a real knack. They just, sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Put them at the far end. What you need to do is get where the bone core goes down the claw. You've got to try and break the seal between the flesh and the bone without breaking the bone or the claw. And when they're wet, it's quite tough to do, especially with rubber gloves on. So I think for now I'll just separate these and let them dry out. But really nice claws. It's easier to leave sometimes leave the claws in the skin when you skin an animal. If you leave the claws in, and then you can just chop them out once it's rotted down a bit more. It's easier to get them out like that. Then skinning it right back to the claw. You can skin it back to the last toe bone, but there's still bits of ligament on these. Once they're dry, they should come a bit cleaner. Just get as much as I can off. I'll be able to scrape these with a tool once they're dried out a bit more. I then put them in to macerate again if I need be. Big cat claws are a pain. I once had a tiger and it took ages to get the claws to separate from the core. The reason is you don't want to put when you whiten this, you don't want to put your actual claws in the peroxide. So you want to make sure you've got the keratin claw off It's like a fingernail in effect. You want to make sure you've got that off before you put in peroxide. I can't get any more off that one. Quite a hairy one. I think this is going to be easier with a tool and not gloves, to be fair. So I might do these. I might do the claws another night when I'm not going to get complained about for being smelly. So what I'll do is run this through. Pick out my claws. Cool, so I've got this to get rid of now, and then what I'll do is put these out to dry. There's like a ridge in these plastic tubs, so if I set this on an angle, just on a couple of blocks of wood, it will naturally drain, and then the bones will be dry in a couple of days. Could speed it up by putting them on I've got like a heat mat from a reptile, a reptile heat mat. I could put them on there. That would speed it up a little bit, but I think for now I'll just pop them on here. I'll just chock them up. And that'll all drain down, all the water will drain down to this end. Bring the bags out. And that's that. Okay, so that's the way that I go about emptying a macerating tank. All that's left to do now is mop up a little bit. So I'll just use a bit of kitchen roll and just mop up the mess that I've made on my desk. And I don't think it smells too bad, but guarantee when I go in the house, they'll say that I absolutely stink. Even though I put rubber gloves on to try and counteract that. So anyway, I hope you found that informative. One of the things that's not very interesting unless you, of course, you want to do it. And if you just macerated it yourself and maybe didn't sieve it, or thought you'd got all the bones and poured the water down the drain or wherever you're going to pour it, you probably would have lost some of the bones. So it's definitely worth sieving off the the residue of the water, because that way you find all the tiny little bones that you may or may not use. Not everyone puts seismoids on, but they're you know, if you've got them there, you can use them. If you've lost them, or lost teeth down the drain, or yeah, they're a lot harder to replace. So obviously teeth are quite tiny things. Right then, so if you've enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up, leave some comments, and if you want to check out some of the other videos, just subscribe to the channel and have a look down. And there's all aspects of building, articulating, so give us a heads up as well in comments if there's anything that you want to see in particular. All right guys, thanks a lot.